You are on HOA neighbor court. I stayed calm and let her tell on herself. Karen stood in the management lobby yelling that my dispute was harassment and she would charge me a fee for wasting staff time. I care what the covenant says, I said, keeping my voice level even though my pulse hammered. She jabbed a finger at the receptionist and demanded they print a new violation notice right there, on the spot, like she ran the whole operation. The receptionist looked uncomfortable but reached for the printer anyway. 3 other homeowners stood in line behind us, pretending not to stare. My name is Daniel. I work as a paramedic in Houston, which means my schedule is rigid and my car is my lifeline. I live in Briarwood Reserve Community Association, a gated neighborhood off the Sam Houston Tollway, where every street looks identical, and the HOA runs everything like a small authoritarian state. Teresa Vaughn is the social committee chair, which sounds harmless until you realize she treats the role like a federal badge. She had been escalating against me for weeks, but this morning it hit critical mass. 2 hours earlier, a neighbor found a package behind the clubhouse storage shed, already opened, contents spilled across the concrete. Teresa immediately announced in the neighborhood chat that I had staged it to deflect blame. I was on shift when the message went out, so I did not see it until I pulled into my driveway after a 12-hour rotation. By then, half the block thought I was a thief. The theft problem had been going on for 3 weeks. Packages disappearing from porches, petty cash missing from the clubhouse fund, and now cars getting hit in the parking lots near the pool. Someone took a garage remote from a center console 2 nights ago, and Teresa claimed I was on a security watch list. She said I had been checking door handles at night. That was a lie. I work nights. I am either at the station or asleep. But Teresa does not care about facts. She cares about control. I scrolled through the chat thread. Teresa had posted a photo of the torn package with the caption, "This is what happens when people stage evidence instead of owning up." Someone asked if management had reviewed the cameras. Teresa replied that the cameras have a blind spot there, so we have to rely on witness credibility. That was her telling everyone to trust her version and ignore mine. I took a screenshot and opened my evidence folder. I had been keeping one since Teresa started targeting me 3 months ago. It started small, a complaint about my trash cans being 6 inches too far forward. Then a notice that my porch storage violated the covenant, even though 10 other units had identical setups. Every time I complied, she moved the goalpost. When I moved the cans back, she said the lids were the wrong color. When I cleared the porch, she said my doormat was a tripping hazard. She wanted me gone, and she was methodical about it. If this sounds like your HOA nightmare, hit that subscribe button, because it gets so much worse. The day after the garage remote theft, Teresa cornered me at the mailbox cluster. I was pulling mail before heading to my shift. She rolled up in that ridiculous golf cart with the amber light blinking like she was code 3 to a cardiac arrest. She parked it sideways across the curb so I could not leave without squeezing past her. Then she got out and started yelling before I could even turn around. "You were seen," she said, loud enough that 2 neighbors loading groceries from their trunks stopped and watched. "You were walking through the lot Tuesday night. Someone reported you trying car doors." "I was on shift Tuesday night," I said. "I clocked in at 6 and did not get home until 8 the next morning." "I can show you my schedule." "Your schedule does not matter," Teresa snapped. She jingled that huge key ring like it was a gavel. "Someone saw you. I have it in writing. And if you do not cooperate, I am authorized to enforce this." There it was. Her catchphrase. I am authorized to enforce this. She said it every time she wanted to sound official. The problem was, she actually did have some power. As social chair, she controlled clubhouse access, vendor relationships, and the neighborhood chat moderation. She also sat in on management meetings as a non-voting observer, which gave her early access to enforcement notices and resident complaints. She used that access like a weapon. I pulled out my phone and opened my shift log. I started to show her the timestamp, but she turned her back and pulled a bright orange traffic cone from the golf cart. She set it down right in front of my car like she owned the space. "This area is under review," she said. "No parking until the investigation is closed." "There is no investigation," I said. "You are making this up." She smiled. It was cold and sharp. "Then you will not mind if I forward your objection to management with a formal request for a surprise inspection of your garage and porch storage. They can check for stolen items while they are at it." That was her threat. A surprise inspection. She knew my schedule. She knew I would not be home. And she knew that if she got management to show up, and I was not there to let them in, she could escalate it into a trespassing complaint or a lease violation if the HOA decided to interpret access refusal as non-compliance. I took a photo of the cone and the golf cart. Teresa saw me do it and laughed. "Your camera does not matter," she said. "My minutes are the truth." That line stuck with me. My minutes are the truth. She was telling me flat out that she controlled the official record. If she wrote in the meeting minutes that I was uncooperative or under investigation, that became the narrative. And there was no formal process to challenge it without going through a full board meeting, which could take weeks. I moved the cone and got in my car. Teresa yelled something about me tampering with official safety equipment, but I ignored her and drove to the station. I had 6 hours before shift started, so I used the time to pull records. I filed a public records request with the management company for all meeting minutes and enforcement notices from the last 6 months. I also requested the gate log and the security camera audit trail. If Teresa was lying about when I was on the property, the gate fob scanner would prove it. The management company responded 2 days later. They sent me a PDF of the meeting minutes, but 3 months were missing. The email said those files were unavailable due to a server migration. I called the office and asked for hard copies. The receptionist said she would check, but Teresa had been in earlier that week to review archived records, and some binders were currently checked out. That was the game. Teresa was systematically erasing the paper trail. If I could not prove what the rules were or what she had said in prior meetings, I could not hold her accountable. And if she kept moving the goalposts in real time, I would always be one step behind. The next escalation came 48 hours later. Teresa posted a safety alert in the neighborhood chat. It was titled Vehicle Prowling Update, and it claimed that additional incidents had been reported and that a resident matching my description had been observed in restricted areas after hours. She did not name me directly, but she included a photo of my car with the license plate visible. The message ended with a reminder that the HOA was cooperating with private security and that any residents with information should contact her directly. I responded in the chat. I wrote that I had been on shift during every alleged incident and that I would be happy to provide my work schedule to anyone who asked. I also said that I had requested meeting minutes and gate logs to verify the claims, and that I was still waiting for the management company to provide them. Teresa deleted my message within 5 minutes. Then she posted a new message saying that public disputes in the chat violated community guidelines and that further violations would result in suspension from the platform and possible fines. She tagged the management company and said she was forwarding my conduct to them for review. 2 neighbors messaged me privately. One said she believed me and thought Teresa was out of line. The other said he had seen Teresa near the clubhouse storage shed the morning the package was found, and that she had been carrying a shopping bag that looked heavy. He did not think much of it at the time, but now he was reconsidering. I asked him if he would be willing to give a statement. He said yes, but only if it stayed confidential. He did not want Teresa coming after him. I understood. Teresa had a reputation for retaliation. If you crossed her, she would find a violation to pin on you. Trash cans, landscaping, parking, noise complaints. She kept a list. I compiled everything I had, the shift logs, the gate fob records I had pulled from my own account portal, the screenshots of the deleted chat messages, the neighbor's statement. I also pulled the metadata from the clubhouse security camera system. The cameras did have a blind spot behind the shed, but the timestamp logs showed that the camera facing the parking lot had been manually disabled for a 6-minute window the morning the package was found. Only 3 people had admin access to the camera system. Teresa was one of them. I wrote a formal complaint and submitted it to the management company. I attached all the evidence and requested a meeting with the board. I also sent a copy to the property management supervisor and requested that Teresa be removed from any role in the investigation due to a clear conflict of interest. The management company responded with a form letter saying they would review my complaint within 30 business days. 30 days. I did not have 30 days. Teresa had already threatened a tow if I parked in my assigned spot again, and the tow company she used was the same vendor the HOA contracted for enforcement. If she called them, they would hook my car without verifying anything. And if my car got towed, I would miss my shift. The tow yard closed at 6, so I would not be able to recover it until the next day. That would cost me a write-up at work, maybe worse. I came home from a grocery run and found the sticker on my windshield. It was bright yellow with bold print and the tow company logo. It said my vehicle was in violation of community parking rules and would be removed within 24 hours if not relocated. There was no signature, no date, no violation code. Just the threat. I called the tow company. The dispatcher said they had received a request from the HOA social chair and that the vehicle was flagged as non-compliant. I asked what rule I was violating. She said she did not have that information and that I needed to contact the HOA directly. I asked for a supervisor. She put me on hold for 8 minutes, then came back and said the supervisor was unavailable, but that I could file a dispute by email. I sent the email immediately. I included photos of my assigned parking spot, my lease showing the spot number, and a copy of the covenant section on parking enforcement. I CC'd the management company and the board president. I also sent a text to the neighbor who had seen Teresa near the shed and asked if he had seen her near my car that day. He replied an hour later. He said yes. He had seen her standing beside my car around noon, holding a clipboard and talking on her phone. She was on speaker, and he heard her tell someone that the vehicle needed to be flagged for removal. That was the vendor pressure move. Teresa had called the tow company directly and ordered them to target me, using her HOA role as leverage. The tow company assumed she had authority. They did not verify the violation. They just followed her instructions because she sounded official. I called the tow company again. This time I got a different dispatcher. I explained the situation and said I had evidence that the request was fraudulent. The dispatcher said they could not cancel the tow without written authorization from the HOA. I asked to speak to the owner. She said the owner only handled escalations and that I needed to go through the dispute process first. I asked how long that would take. She said 5 to 7 business days. I did not have 5 to 7 business days. The sticker said 24 hours. I had less than 18 hours left, and my next shift started in 12. If the car got towed, I was done. I called my ally. His name is Deputy Marcus Shaw. He works patrol in the Northwest District and lives 3 streets over in the same HOA. We met during a joint response a year ago, and we stayed in touch. He is calm, methodical, and he does not tolerate people abusing authority. I explained what Teresa was doing. He listened without interrupting, then said he would stop by after his shift. Marcus showed up at 7 that evening. He parked his personal truck in front of my unit and walked over. I showed him the sticker, the emails, the screenshots, and the neighbor's statement. He took photos of everything with his phone. Then he asked if I had any video evidence. I did. I had a doorbell camera. It did not cover the parking lot directly, but it caught part of the walkway and the edge of my assigned spot. I pulled the footage from the day the sticker appeared. The timestamp showed Teresa walking past my car at 11:53, stopping, looking around, then walking up to the windshield and placing something under the wiper. The angle was not perfect, but it was clear enough. She was not checking a violation. She was creating one. Marcus watched the clip twice. Then he asked if I had pulled the clubhouse camera logs yet. I said I had requested them, but the management company had not sent them. He said he knew someone in the management company compliance department and that he could make a call. He also said that if Teresa called the tow company again, I should call him immediately and he would respond as a welfare check. That would delay the tow and give me time to gather more evidence. The twist came 2 days later. A neighbor I barely knew knocked on my door at 9 in the morning. Her name was Claire. She lived in the building across from the clubhouse. She said she needed to tell me something, but she did not want anyone else to know. I invited her in. Claire said Teresa had approached her a week earlier and asked her to sign a statement saying she had seen me near the clubhouse storage shed the night before the package was found. Claire said she had not seen me there, and she told Teresa that. Teresa got angry and said Claire was not being a good neighbor. Then, Teresa offered to waive a late fee Claire owed for a missed HOA assessment payment if Claire reconsidered. Claire refused, but she was scared. She said Teresa had a way of making life miserable for people who did not cooperate. I asked Claire if she would be willing to put that in writing. She hesitated, then said yes, but only if I promised her name would not go public unless absolutely necessary. I agreed. She wrote a short statement and signed it. I scanned it and added it to my evidence folder. That same afternoon, Marcus called me. He said his contact in the compliance department had pulled the clubhouse camera logs. The logs showed that Teresa had disabled the parking lot camera for 6 minutes on the morning the package was found. The log also showed that she had accessed the storage shed keypad twice that morning. The first access was at 6:41. The second was at 6:57. The package was reported at 7:15. Marcus also said the compliance department had flagged Teresa's vendor call records. She had called the tow company 4 times in the past 2 weeks, all targeting different residents. 3 of those residents had filed complaints against her in the prior month. The pattern was obvious. Teresa was using the tow company as retaliation. I asked Marcus what I should do next. He said I needed to force a confrontation in a public space with witnesses. If Teresa lied or threatened me in front of other people, it would be harder for the management company to ignore. He suggested I go to the management office lobby during peak hours and request a formal review of my parking status. If Teresa showed up, she would either have to back down or escalate in front of staff and other residents. Either way, I would get the documentation I needed. I went to the management office the next morning at 10. The lobby was packed. 5 people in line, 2 staff members at the front desk, and a property manager visible through the glass door of the back office. I checked in and said I needed to resolve a parking dispute. The receptionist asked for my address and pulled up my account. She frowned and said there was a note on the account that I was under review for a covenant violation. I asked who had placed the note. She said it was submitted by the social committee chair. I said I had evidence that the note was false and that I wanted to present it formally. The receptionist said she could schedule a meeting, but it would take 2 weeks. I said I did not have 2 weeks because my car was being threatened with a tow. She looked uncomfortable. Then the door behind her opened, and Teresa walked in. Teresa saw me, and her expression shifted. For a split second, she looked surprised. Then she smiled, and walked up to the desk like she owned it. "Daniel," she said, loud enough that everyone in the lobby turned to look. "I am glad you are here. We need to talk about your repeated violations and your harassment of HOA staff." "I did not harass anyone," I said. "I filed a formal complaint with evidence. You have been targeting me for months." "Your complaint is under review," Teresa said. She pulled a folder from her bag and slapped it on the counter. "In the meantime, you need to comply with the parking restriction or your vehicle will be removed. I am authorized to enforce this." I opened my evidence binder and pulled out the timeline. I had printed everything: the shift logs, the gate fob records, the doorbell camera stills, the clubhouse camera disable log, Claire's statement, and the neighbor's account of seeing Teresa near the shed. I laid them on the counter one by one. "This is my work schedule," I said. "I was on shift during every alleged incident. This is the gate log showing I was not on the property when you claimed I was. This is the doorbell footage showing you placing the tow sticker on my car without authorization. This is the camera log showing you disabled the clubhouse camera the morning the package was found. And this is a witness statement saying you tried to bribe a neighbor into lying about me. Teresa tried to grab the papers. I pulled them back. The receptionist leaned forward and said she needed to see everything. I handed her the binder. She flipped through it slowly, her eyes widening. The property manager came out of the back office. He looked at the binder, then at Teresa, then at me. "Is this accurate?" he asked Teresa. Teresa's face went red. "Those documents are incomplete," she said. "He is cherry-picking facts to make me look bad. I have meeting minutes that show his pattern of non-compliance." "I would like to see those minutes," I said. "Because the management company told me 3 months of minutes are missing, and a staff member confirmed you checked out the archived binders." Teresa opened her mouth, then closed it. The property manager asked her to step into the back office. She refused. She said she had done nothing wrong and that I was the one under investigation. Then she pulled out her phone and said she was calling the tow company right now. The property manager held up a hand. "Miss Vaughn, I need you to step into my office." "Now." Teresa hesitated. Then she turned and walked toward the back office. But before she went through the door, she tried one more move. She reached out and tried to seize my binder from the counter. That was the final humiliation moment. I had my phone in my hand, recording. The receptionist saw her lunge and stepped back. 2 other residents pulled out their phones. Teresa froze mid-grab, her hand hovering over the binder, her face locked in a furious grimace. Then the camera flashes went off. 3 phones. 4. 5. Everyone in the lobby was recording. Teresa pulled her hand back like she had touched a hot stove. She looked around at the crowd, then at the property manager, then at me. Her whole body went stiff. Then she turned and walked into the back office without another word. The property manager followed her and closed the door. I stayed at the counter. The receptionist said she needed to make copies of my evidence and that she would escalate the case immediately. I said I also wanted a written statement confirming that the tow threat was canceled and that my parking status was restored. She said she would get that from the manager as soon as the meeting was over. I waited in the lobby for 20 minutes. Other residents came up to me and asked what happened. I gave them the short version. 2 of them said they had also been targeted by Teresa and that they wished they had kept records. One woman said Teresa had tried to charge her a fee for filing a maintenance request. Another said Teresa had threatened to fine him for having his trash cans out 15 minutes past pickup time. The property manager came out. He looked tired. He said the HOA board had been notified and that Teresa was being placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. He also said the tow threat was canceled immediately and that my parking status was restored with no fines or penalties. He handed me a printed letter confirming it. Then he said the board was reviewing all recent enforcement actions involving Teresa and that other residents might be contacted for additional statements. I asked if Teresa would face any consequences. He said that was up to the board, but given the evidence, he expected a formal written no-contact directive at minimum. He also said the management company was conducting an internal audit of the meeting minutes and vendor call records to determine if any other enforcement actions had been improperly influenced. I left the office and called Marcus. I told him what happened. He said he was not surprised. He also said he had filed a separate report with the management company documenting the tow company abuse and recommending that the HOA sever the contract if the vendor could not demonstrate proper verification procedures. He said the vendor would likely refuse to cooperate with Teresa going forward because they did not want liability exposure. That was the payoff. A written reversal from management with a real citation. Teresa's timeline was proven false with timestamps. The HOA issued a written no-contact directive against Karen. And Teresa's printed packet went airborne at the worst possible moment, blown off the counter by the air conditioning vent when she slammed it down, scattering pages across the lobby floor while everyone watched. The fallout continued over the next 2 weeks. The board held an emergency meeting and voted to remove Teresa from the social committee. The meeting minutes were published in full, which almost never happens. The minutes included a detailed summary of the evidence against her, and a formal apology to me and 2 other residents who had been improperly targeted. The board also implemented new policies requiring dual authorization for any enforcement action and mandatory documentation for all vendor calls. 3 residents filed formal complaints against Teresa. The compliance audit found that she had disabled the clubhouse camera on 4 separate occasions, all corresponding to missing or damaged property reports. The audit also found that Teresa had accessed the storage shed outside of normal committee hours, and that her personal key fob had been used to enter restricted areas without authorization. The stolen garage remote was never recovered, but a neighbor 2 buildings over reported finding a cardboard box in the clubhouse trash room filled with items that matched descriptions from recent theft reports. The box included the remote, 2 packages, a small cash bag from the clubhouse fund, and a set of extra keys that matched the description of a keyring Teresa carried. The box also had a receipt from a donation center stapled to the side, as if Teresa had been planning to dispose of it under the guise of a charitable drop-off. The police were called. A deputy took a report and documented the evidence. Teresa was not arrested, but the report included her name, and the HOA provided copies of the camera logs, vendor call records, and witness statements. The deputy said the case would be forwarded to the district attorney for review. If charges were filed, it would likely be theft under $500 and possibly filing a false report. Both misdemeanors, but both on record. The tow company terminated their contract with the HOA after the vendor abuse came to light. The new vendor required written verification and photographic evidence for every single tow request, with a mandatory 24-hour review period. No more same-day threats. No more phone call enforcement. Claire, the neighbor who had given me the statement, was relieved. She said she had been scared to speak up before, but seeing other people come forward gave her the courage. She also said Teresa had tried to contact her twice after the meeting, but Claire blocked her number and forwarded the call records to the management company. Marcus told me later that Teresa had tried to file a counter-complaint, claiming I had harassed her by recording her in the office. The property manager rejected it immediately and reminded her that the office was a public space and that recording was permitted under Texas law as long as one party consents. Since I was recording myself, there was no violation. Teresa dropped it. The HOA sent me a formal letter a month later. It included an apology, a refund of a $50 administrative fee I had been charged during the dispute process, and a statement confirming that my record was clear and that no violations or compliance notes remained on my account. The letter was signed by the board president and copied to the management company and the compliance department. I ran into Teresa once more after that. It was at the mailbox cluster. She saw me coming and turned around without saying anything. She did not make eye contact. She just walked back to her unit and closed the door. I did not follow. I did not need to. The evidence had done the work. The neighborhood settled down after that. The thefts stopped. The chat went quiet. The new social committee chair sent out a welcome message saying the committee was refocusing on community events and transparency. A few neighbors reached out to thank me privately. One said he had been thinking about moving because of the HOA drama, but now he felt like maybe things could improve. I kept my evidence binder. I keep it in my car now, just in case. Because I learned that the only way to fight someone who manipulates the official record is to build your own. Timestamps, screenshots, receipts, witnesses. Everything documented, everything dated, everything ready. I appreciate you being part of this.